Now I'd like to circle back to confirming the factors that would define business resilience. That is, what characterize a business with a high profit margin, a business that can withstand low milk prices, high supplement prices, or poor weather that reduces pasture harvest and crop yields. How does increasing pasture harvest impact on profit margin? Well, it impacts in a significant and very positive way. How about increasing milk production per cow? Well, increasing milk production per cow doesn't help in any way. In fact, lifting milk production per cow up to high levels will most probably reduce profit margin and undermine business resilience. How about increasing pasture as a percent of the cow's diet? Well, in a similar way to increasing pasture harvest, increasing pasture as a percent of the diet impacts profit margin in a significant and very positive way, unless the farm already has a very high percent of pasture in the diet. Now I'd like to review the impact of climatic variability and the potential warming of the planet. What is the logical response to climate variability, and in particular to lower pasture and crop yields? Well, hopefully this is now clear to you. Increase pasture as a percent of the cow's diet. Why? Because this will increase profit margin, which will ensure the production system and the farming business is more resilient. As this graph highlighted, increasing diet pasture percent impacts profit margin in a significant and very positive way. This principle can be further highlighted by a South African study that I recently completed. The study involved modelling the impact of increasing pasture percent in the diet for an average farm, starting with 41% pasture and then increasing this in 4 equal 4% increments to a maximum of 57% pasture in the diet. And this was the result of the study. As the models moved from the 41% pasture through to 57% pasture in the diet, profit per hectare increases from 3.4 US cents to 5.3 cents per litre. This is almost a 60% increase in profit margin, meaning an average dairy farm business can accommodate a much larger change in milk price, supplement price, pasture harvest, or other challenge before profit becomes severely constrained. Before we can claim that these improvements are unconditionally persuasive, we should review how sensitive these results are to variability in climatic conditions, including the impact on pasture harvest, silage and crop yields, silage cost and the cost of other forages, and concentrate cost. First, I'd like to outline the basis for this climatic sensitivity analysis. This includes variation around the average or base pasture harvest, with this increasing or decreasing up to 1 tonne dry matter per hectare from a base level of 11.3 tonne dry matter. Maize silage yields were also sensitised around a 14 tonne dry matter per hectare yield, with this increasing or decreasing up to 1 tonne dry matter per hectare. Maize silage is the predominant forage used in South Africa, with the majority of dairy farmers producing most of this themselves. The cost assumption was that the total cost of these crops, including planting, growing and harvesting, would be unchanged, so the effective price per tonne for this silage increases or decreases on the basis of yield. Concentrate price was also sensitised around $253 per tonne, or around 230 euros per tonne, with this increasing or decreasing up to 12 euros per tonne. This assumption was primarily based on the impact of more or less pasture availability, changing the requirement in the concentrate mix for added protein and potentially some other additives. So what were the results? This graph has return on capital on the vertical axis, with the models on the horizontal axis moving from 41% pasture on the left to 57% on the right. You can see that profitability increases in all scenarios as diet pasture percent increases, regardless of climate variation. And the increase in profitability appears to be similar, regardless of whether the climate is advantageous or poor. This graph has profit per hectare on the vertical axis, which looks very similar in shape to the return on capital graph. When just the change in performance is graphed, then in this return on capital graph, the range of improvements between 1.3 and 1.8%. In the second profit per hectare graph, the range of improvements are between $210 and $330 per hectare. The increases in both these ratios are consistent, and as you can see, the biggest improvements in profitability are in years of poor climate. This further highlights how increasing diet pasture percent increases the resilience of dairy farm performance. When just the change in cost of production is plotted on the graph and the change in profit margin on the second graph, then it is clear that the benefits gained from increasing diet pasture percent on lowering the cost of production and increasing profit margin are evident across all climatic conditions.